Hello everybody, this is Mr. Rob and welcome back to another episode of the Athletics franchise here on MLB The Show 24, where we have finally reached the 2026 Major League Baseball first year player draft. But before we get into the actual drafts, I'm going to do our usual draft preview before, just kind of highlight some of the top prospects in this draft, maybe some of the late round picks that I have kind of targeted, so you can kind of get to know some of these players before they've gotten picked, because we're in year 3 of this franchise, and we're starting to get to the point where some of these players that we have drafted are starting to make an impact. So I hope you guys are ready for this one. If you are, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more franchise content. And let's get into the players, as there are quite a few we're going to get through, so let's not waste any more time. So you can see we have the 6th pick in the draft as well, before getting all the way down to 42 and 73. But we're going to look at the top 5 players first, and we'll break it down by position. This is ranked by our team. So these are who our scouts have as the top 5 players. They're about the same top 5 players that a lot of the league has, but we'll just go in this order because that's what matters to us. The top player on our scouts board is starting pitcher Danny Paulino, the 21-year-old from Indiana. As the Hoosier has been one of the best pitchers in college baseball this year. Currently throws a 4-seam fastball, a running fastball, a curveball, a changeup, and a slider. He's got a 5-pitch mix, as I butchered that, but I think he's a pretty good pitcher overall. Not sure if he is the top player on the board. He's got a high potential, 21.65 big build, but the home runs could be an issue. That's something that kind of glares out for me, and for a top 5 pick, that's kind of a deal breaker a little bit. He wants $6.5 million in bonus demand as well, and he doesn't have the best pitch break and velocity, but I think Paulino is a very good pitcher. If he falls to 6, I think that there is a chance that the Athletics do take him, considering our pitching is one of our sore spots in our organization. In the past 2 years, we spent our top pick on positional players. Maybe we mix it up this year. Second ranked in the Athletics organization, third across Major League Baseball scouts, is catcher Lonnie McCarthy, the 19-year-old from Pennsylvania, who's been spending this year traveling with the USA team. He didn't go to college. He decided to do a little bit more unconventional route. And he's a really solid catcher. I think we're pretty good so far where we sit on the catchers, but, McCarthy, he's got one of the best bats. You can see he hits for good contact. He's got good power, good vision, good discipline. I'm very much when we get to the MLB draft, a BPA type of guy. So, a lot of these guys is going to take a few years before they even get to the majors anyway. So a lot of can happen in that span. So if McCarthy's a guy on the board at 6, there's a good chance that we take him, because those skills are pretty good. And even with an $8.6 million bonus demand, which is pretty high, I think McCarthy could be that selection. Will he fall to 6? I don't know. A switch hitting bat as well. He just seems like he checks off the box. He's a pretty solid defender, and McCarthy could be the guy that I have at the top of my board. Third is Kirk Pruitt, back to the starting pitchers, the 21-year-old from Rutgers University, and he is honestly might be a better pitcher than Danny Paulino. You can see he has a lot more of a variety here in his stats. That home runs per 9 being elite is very nice to see. The hits as well. Not much of a strikeout guy, but as long as you're getting outs in my regard, that is perfectly fine. He throws lefty switch hitter, which is interesting. He throws a 4-seam fastball, a slider, and a splitter. I don't think he'll make it to pick 6. He's got the highest bonus demand of anybody we've seen so far with $9 million, which is a lot. But if he falls to 6, he could be the guy that we take. Fourth, we haven't scouted these next 2, but I think they're good players overall, is closing pitcher Christopher Nixon, the 19-year-old from Cisco College in Texas. He went to a junior college for a season, knowing that he was going to go to the MLB draft, because he's a pretty solid closing pitcher. There was a 4-seamer, a 2-seamer, a changeup, and a sinker. My only negative with Nixon is the fact that he is a closing pitcher. We got a top 6 pick in this draft. Do you really want to use it on a closing pitcher? Now, I do think closer is more important than reliever. I mean, we did draft a closer pretty high last year, Rolando Castro. But, you got a lot of holes on the team that you do if you're picking high, and you're not sure if you want to use it on a closing pitcher, a guy that you only put out when you're really going to win games, and, well, when you're bad, you're not winning many games, so how much does he really face in the field? If you do want to draft a closing pitcher, Christopher Nixon is definitely that guy, though. He has got a very good skill set. Then rounding out our top 5 is Miles Mora, the center fielder from the University of Southern California. He's a very fast player. He's probably more of a defensive guy than an offensive kind of skill set. He can hit for some contact, but he's not going to hit for much power. Our scouts have him ranked 5. MLB has him at 7, so he could fall to 6th. If he does, I don't know if he would be the pick, though, considering that skill set is really not setting the world on fire. But those are all the top 5 good players. They are the top 5 for a reason, and there's some pretty good players there. I would like to get one of those guys if they fell to 6. We'll go by position now, starting off with the starting pitchers. We'll spend the most of the time with the pitchers. That's usually what happens. We've already seen Danny Paulino and Kirk Pruitt. The next guy I want to highlight is Connor Royster, the starting pitcher from a Corona High School in California. Our scouts have him ranked 14th, 21 in the MLB. He's an 18-year-old, and I think he's a very talented 18-year-old. If you want to go with a little bit of a cheaper option up here, Connor Royster could be that guy. A lefty thrower, stands 6'5", 242, with a 4-seamer, a 2-seamer, a 12-6, and a changeup. He's got a pretty solid repertoire there. His potential, though, is probably going to be in the B range, though, which is a little disappointing considering we have the 6th pick. If we had more of a middle of the first-round pick, I think Connor Royster would be the guy there. But with the 6th pick, you kind of want some elite talent. And I don't know if he's going to be that elite pitcher. He's going to be a very good rotational guy, maybe a 3, maybe as high as a 2 pitcher in your rotation. But he's not going to be that elite guy, and I think that's kind of what's missing. He is 18, so he can definitely outgrow that. And I do like Royster a lot. I'm not saying I'm not going to pick him at pick 6, but there might be better options available. Willie Vaughn is another guy who scouts are high on. Our guys aren't as high. You can see MLB 4, while the Athletics have him at 17th, 18, wrong guy. He is 20 years old from Massachusetts, and he throws a 2-seamer, a change, a sinker, and a slider. He's got a very good mix, look at those stats across the board. A little bit higher on the bonus demand as well. He's a guy that we could go at pick 6. He's been playing a couple years at a JUCO college in Massachusetts, and he's been kind of bouncing around the block, just trying to make his way to the majors. Kind of the same boat as Royster, though. Not going to probably be that elite guy. Maybe needs a little bit more time than Royster as well, which is the other thing working against him. But he's got a little bit more experience, and I think that's showing in his ratings now. But Willie Vaughn's another guy you could see go in the top 10 as a guy we'll look at if he's there at 6. But then we'll be having him at 4. Maybe he's not even available. Then we got the next guy, Billy Da Silva. We'll go a little bit down the board. And this one's an interesting one because scouts have him not ranked, but our guys have him 39th. So a potential fringe first-round pitcher. The 19-year-old from Venezuela, who we discovered later in the cycle, who only advanced $275,000 as well. This could be another late steal kind of guy that we look at. We did that a couple years ago with Angelo Jaquez, and he's playing pretty good at AAA currently. But the 19-year-old, he's got a pretty solid bat, or not bat, it's got a pretty solid grouping. You can see in the attributes. The hits and the home runs are a little concerning, but as long as he can keep the other stuff under control, then he might be okay. He's not a guy I'm going to take with the first pick, but if he starts to slide down the board, Billy Da Silva is a guy we can definitely snag in the later rounds. He could probably going to have B potential, maybe potential A, so that could be a potential steal. Another guy in the same sort of ballpark as him is Carter Burkhart, another guy that we want to look at maybe later in the draft. We start to get into our second-round picks. The 18-year-old from Wilmington High School in Illinois. There's a 4-seamer, a changeup, a slider, and a 12-6 curve. I like the attributes. We're talking like second round, maybe third round now. And I think a lefty sitting at 6'4" with that kind of skill set is pretty good. Again, his lowest is probably his strikeouts. He's not going to be a big strikeout guy, but as long as he can control his pitches and not give up the long ball and free passes, we can work with that. And I think that's kind of what Carter Burkhart has at this point. And I would like to maybe scoop him up in the second round. The last starting pitcher we'll take a look at is Ernest Infante, born in Virginia, who played last year for the Panama national team. That's where his family is from, and they are citizens of, so he gets to play with them a little bit, play there for 1 year, now is ready for the majors. He's just another guy that maybe could be a sort of late round kind of pick. We're more high on the MLB scouts, which is a little bit good, which means he could fall to like the third round. So he's another guy to maybe look at to be a potential athletic. We'll go to the relief pitchers now. I don't want to spend too much time with these guys. Kind of the same thing I talked about with the closers earlier. But, our bullpen is really bad. The top reliever on the board is currently DeMarcus Jamison, the 18-year-old from Mason High School in Ohio. He is a lefty. He is 18 years old, 6'5". He throws a 4-seamer, a changeup, a curve, and a slider. A very good relief pitcher if you want to go that route. There's also a guy that maybe I do like in the later parts of the rounds, which is Alex Davis. He is a 21-year-old from Cal Poly who has a four-seamer, a curveball, a changeup, and a slider. And, I said I don't really want to go reliever early. I wouldn't mind going reliever later, and I think Alex Davis is the guy I'm going to target for a potential late-round relief pitcher. He does demand $1.3 million in bonus money, which is kind of a lot, but I think he's got a pretty solid skill set to be a potential relief pitcher for us. We'll move over to closers. We talked about Christopher Nixon. He's the only closer I'm really going to talk about. None of the other guys really stood out to me. But again, Nixon is a very good closing pitcher who should be a closer for a major league squad. We'll go to the position players now. We'll start off at catcher. We don't really need a catcher. Tyler Sostrom's playing at an all-star level. So does Daniel Susac. He's starting to play really well. So I think we're set on catcher, which if you look on the bottom left is tied for our best position. And because of that, Lonnie McCarthy is really the only guy. If he did fall to 6, I would have a hard time passing up on him. But other than that, there's not really a catcher that stands out. First base is an interesting spot because I do like Ryan Noda, but I don't think he's really hit the cap that I expected of Ryan Noda. And we did pick a first baseman last year, the number 4 overall pick in Charlie Rowe, and he's been killing it this year in Double-A. And I'm in really no hurry to rush Rowe to the majors. So because of that, I'm not sure if first base is going to be like a top need for us. But there are a pretty good, interesting group of first basemen. I think this is actually one of the deeper positions of this draft. Starting off with the top guy who a lot of people have as their top overall prospect, period. And that's Esteban Cervantes, the 21-year-old. He currently plays for Miami, born in the Dominican Republic. He was a guy that a lot of people thought could potentially come out and be a top player out of high school, but he decided to go to college, and he decided to go to Miami University, and he's maybe helped his stock even more. He's going to be probably a B potential player, but a high-level B at that, and he's probably already major league ready. You see that bat. That bat is definitely there. He's not much of a defender, but he plays first base. I think honestly see him being more of a designated hitter type of guy. And if he falls to 6, looking at that bat, that might be tough to pass up on, especially a guy who could be ready relatively sooner rather than later. And something I haven't really talked about is we're going to be moving to Las Vegas in the next couple of seasons. So I want to have a good team ready for when we get to that point. And Cervantes could probably be one of the faces of that grouping because he's going to be major league ready sooner rather than later. So I do like Esteban Cervantes, but I don't see him falling to 6, honestly. Another guy that I also do like, who will probably be there, is Vladimir Valentine, 18-year-old from Venezuela, who also has a really good bat. And he actually can field a little bit, and he plays a lot of variety of pitches or positions. He can play third base, left field, right field. Only 18 years old. The bat is going to be there. He's a guy that maybe you do want to reach on at 6 because he's currently projected to be in the 20s, and I don't know if he'll be there in the 20s. Obviously, we don't have a pick till like the 42, so he's not going to be there on the second pick. If you really like Vladimir Valentine a lot, which I do, he could be the guy that you take. He's probably going to be a B potential. It has some C potential, maybe range as well, but he's not going to take a lot of time before he's major league ready. And I do like that bat. That bat really stands out, and we could use some offense with this team. So Vladimir Valentine, one of the more intriguing prospects that I've currently seen. Going down a little bit, there's also Gene Brignoni, who is currently injured, played for the Dominican Republic, but is currently hurt, which is scaring some players. But he's got a good power bat. The offense could be there. He plays some good defense, can play the corner outfielders. Just that injury, though, it's how bad is it? You risk picking an injury guy. We took Rolando Castro last year with an injury. If you remember, he was projected to be like the top pick in the draft, but he fell to our second pick because of that injury. Now, he's doing pretty good. He recently got the call up to Double-A. It's just going to take a little bit more time. Does that same thing apply here to Gene Brignoni? You can see the potential is also pretty wide. So that injury might scare off a lot of teams, and it might scare off the Athletics as well. But somebody's going to take a chance. It'll be interesting to see who. Last first baseman we'll take a look at is Will Jansen, who's a guy who we could see maybe all the way down to the 3rd or 4th round. The 18-year-old from Yarmouth High School up in Maine has been a late discovery. The lefty's got a pretty solid bat. He can hit for some power, he can hit for some contact. He's going to take some time to develop, but that's okay. Like I said, we do have Noda holding it down at first base, and Charlie Rowe is there as well. If you want another backup first baseman, maybe go with Will Jansen. So I think there's a couple of intriguing first basemen on this team. Second base, we're pretty locked up there in the majors as well. Zach Geloff has been an all-star for us in this series, and I do like Zach Geloff a lot. so we're not going to spend too much time at second base. The top guy is Tony Dutzman, who currently opted out of his physical. He's playing for a JUCO team, a former Cincinnati Bearcat who transferred out. Maybe there's a little bit of character concerns because of that. So because of that, I'm not really going to say much. His bat isn't really there, in my opinion, either. So this is a pretty weak second base group, but he does headline it. At third base, we currently have Jacob Wilson, who's off to not the fastest start in the majors, but he's one of our few A-level potential guys, and he's shown the flashes recently. Had a very good series against Seattle, so I think he will definitely come into his own. And there's also Jordan Diaz behind him, so we're not really much into third baseman. There is Stanley Yamashita is the top guy over there, currently playing at Oregon State, born in Japan. He's more of a defensive type of third baseman. The bat could get there, just might take a little bit of development. So he is an intriguing prospect at third base. Other than that, not the best third base class. Shortstop, there's a couple of intriguing options. Now, we are actually pretty loaded at shortstop. I know it says we're ranked 25th, but Robbie Martin was our first pick in the series. He's pretty solid. He plays a lot of DH. There's also Nick Allen, Logan Davidson, Richie Beach, Dale Hernandez. So we pretty much have a logjam at shortstop. So not sure if adding another top shortstop would be the move. The top guy on our board is Franklin Everett, who is 58th in the MLB Scouts. And he is a great defensive shortstop and can actually hit the ball a little bit. So the 18-year-old from St. Augustine Prep in New Jersey could potentially be a wild card guy. If he falls to a second-round pick, with that kind of skill set, why not? He's going to take some time to develop, but like I said, we have a logjam currently at shortstop, so we can afford the time to develop. So maybe Franklin Everett is a guy to look out for. If not, another team will probably take him, and they'll probably be pretty happy with their selection. Another shortstop that I did like a little bit down the board is Ryan Hampton. He was another gem that our guys kind of found. He's currently playing for the Richmond Spiders, and he's been playing pretty solid. He's hit for high contact, and it's good vision, good discipline, a very solid player. The only thing that kind of scares me from him, though, is his overall and his potential are kind of the same, so he's not really going to progress a lot, but for a late-round pick with that kind of an offensive bat, who knows, so maybe we take a flyer on him later. Going to the outfield now, starting off in left field, we have Julio Vasquez, the 18-year-old from the Dominican Republic, is the top guy here. He'll be a first-round pick at some point. He can play some defense. He can hit for some contact. He's got a pretty good vision. Not sure in terms of how much power you'll get out of him. But Julio Vasquez is the top left fielder. Other than that, there really wasn't much in the left field department. Center field, same thing. We looked at Miles Mora. We have Esteury Ruiz out there, who I like a lot, as well as a couple of guys in the minors in Pedro Pineda. So not sure how much we're going to talk about them. Also, there really wasn't a top center fielder other than Miles Mora that I scouted and liked. Finally, in the right field, James Giles is the top guy out here, the 18-year-old from Heath High School in Ohio, and I actually do like him. This is kind of a weak right field spot, so he's projected 51st, so he could be there with the second pick. Doesn't have much of a power bat, but can play some defense, got a little bit of speed, can hit for some contact, good vision, good discipline. So maybe he's a guy we take a flyer at. We have Brent Rooker in the outfield, and he's playing probably his best ball he has since he was a 2023 All-Star, so his stock might not be higher than it is right now to trade him. So other than that, we do have Clark Elliott in the system, which I do like a lot. But, 8 right field positions not set in stone. And James Giles is the guy who could potentially get to that spot. He's not going to be a top-level prospect, but he could handle himself with the offensive bat. The other guy that I liked in right field was Julian Curran as a potential late-round pick. He did opt out of his physical, which is a little scary. Pretty raw, but he is 18, and he is from Cuba. And he has some of these skill sets that could potentially get there. Now, he's going to take a ton of time in the minors. He's a very raw bat, like I said, but he's got some of the skill sets there. The bat could come around. He's got the speed. Defense could get there as well. He's just got to learn the game, and he's just late to the party. But, he has the potential there. He could potentially be a high-level guy, or he could be a bust. Could be a potential wild card in this draft. But, when you're looking at the MLB draft, sometimes you just got to take a wild card, especially in the late rounds. So Julian Curran's a guy that I'm currently also thinking about. But those are the top prospects I wanted to talk about going into this draft. Let me know in the comments section below which one do you think we should draft. Next episode, we will actually go through the draft and we'll see who will be the newest Athletics. Also, I'm thinking about doing a live stream on Friday afternoon in terms of doing the Home Run Derby and the All-Star Game. So let me know in the comments section below if that's something you would also like to see. But it is the All-Star break. It's the festivities. I like to have a good time with this. So we'll have a good time with it. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more franchise content. This is Mr. Rob, and I'll see you in the next one.